All right, the following is going to be for notes for days 3 and 4. The solutions to notes are going to be in the back of the classroom posted up. What I really want to show you is just kind of how to use the tools in the calculator that are going to be necessary for not just this unit, but everything that we're going to be doing going forward, working with the window, working with the table of values on both these calculators. So you're going to be asked to graph these and make sketches on the graph. What I want to do first is I'm just going to take this part B, the y equals 2x squared. And the first part of this video will be with the 84. The second part of the video will be with the Inspire. So if right now, if you have an 84, you can just kind of watch from here. If you have an Inspire, fast forward until you see an Inspire pop up on the screen. So if we're going to graph 2x squared, we're just going to go here, clear everything out, and just go 2 times x squared. Now, this is the easy part. You hit graph, something pops up. What we want to work on is, and understand, is this window button here. The general -10 to 10, this is what they call zoom standard, or if we just hit the zoom 6 for zoom standard, that's what we get for the standard screen. Okay, if we want to go to our table of values to find the values, we can go hit second graph, get to the screen, and what that allows us to do is scroll up and down and find these. Okay, and in this case, you look, and really what you're looking for is this pattern. Notice the pattern here goes from 50 down to 0, back up to 50 again. That's the pattern we're looking for to show a quadratic equation. If we want to adjust our table, we can do that a little bit later. But this table will allow us to just kind of fill out the table of values for a function like this. If we are on an Inspire, you're just going to go down here to the graphing screen. And if anything is here, so let's just reset it, hit the document key. And then if you scroll up once, or all the way down to the bottom, but up, go to clear sketchpad, and it'll just give us a clean slate. Hit the button again, we go to graph, we go 2 times x squared. Now, if we want to get the table values for this one, it's the menu button. Everything's on the menu button for this calculator. And just scroll down here to table, split screen table, and it will pull it up. It's a little smaller, so it's a little harder to see on this one, but you can just kind of scroll up and down. The scroll is a little bit faster than the Inspire, or than the TI-84. But if you take a look, this is what we're looking for. As you notice, here's a 0. These numbers keep getting bigger. If we scroll the other way, they're getting smaller, and then coming back up again, so we know where we have the quadratic. So that's how you access both the table and the window. Again, if you want to hit menu and you remove the table, you can hit the table button, remove it, then go back to menu and look at your window, any of their settings, any of your zooms. Now, I'm going to let you guys fill out the rest of this. What I would like to do is jump now to day 4. And day 4 is kind of the interesting one. We really need to get a good grasp of the calculator. So for day 4, what we're looking for is this right here. So how do we graph x times 50 minus x? We can't do the p's, the calculator doesn't recognize them. So how can we graph x times 50 minus x on here and make a sketch? So again, I'm going to do the 84 first. I'll do the Inspire second. So in order to graph this, let's go to our y equals screen, clear out what we have, and let's put in x times parentheses 50 minus x. Now, we notice we hit graph, we get just a crooked line. That's not the graph. We know that because this is x squared, it's a parabola, it's a quadratic. What we want to do is go to our table of values. Now, if we look here, these numbers are negative, and then they keep getting larger. And I'm scrolling down here, and I notice these things are going to get larger. Do they ever come back down? And notice what happens right around 25. Notice how they start coming down again. Just kind of scrolling down here, and then keep going, and then at 50, it's 0. Now, if we didn't want to, so we know that it starts at 0 and at 0, 0, and then it goes up to, by the time it gets to 50, it's back down to 0. So what we need to do is look at what our x and y values were doing and adjust our window. So we started at 0, and our maximum we had was at 50. Right, this is our x min, x max. So at 0 and 50 is when it crossed the axis. What we want to do now is look at our minimum. Our y values, they never really went negative in between there. And if I'm not mistaken, they went up to about 650, 700. If you're not sure, just go back to the table. Somewhere in the middle. It looks around here like 625. That's what it looks like, but we'll check. I always like to go a little farther than that. So again, let's go to our table setup. Or sorry, our table. And go to our window. And we want to change our maximum Y value to something more than 625. So let's go to 650. And hit graph. If you did it correct, now we have the graph here. And again, we have 0 to 50 for the X and 0 to 650 for the Y. So there's a little bit of guess and check, a little bit of work with your table in order to make this work and get the graph up here. Then if we want to, we can calculate, let's just say our maximum value, just like we've done before. Go here, hit enter, and our maximum is at 25 and 625. So that's a way that we can graph this and find a maximum for this graph. Let's say the next one that we're looking at, okay, on the next page is the 4,000 minus 250x. So this is x and then times 4,000 minus 250x. I made a mistake, so back up. Make sure your parentheses are in there. Now notice we hit graph and again, nothing really appeared. But what we know is this, and this is where the trick comes in, is if you take 4,000 and divide it by 250, you get 16. And I'm going to go back to my table of values and I'm going to scroll down. And I notice, boom, when I'm scrolling, here's 16 and 0. If I scroll farther, there's my other 0. So my zeros are so I have 0, 0. It goes up to 16,000 and then back down to 0. So now I can adjust my window to go from 0 to 16, 0 to look like 16 or 17,000 and graph it. And there we got the graph. Now, jump ahead if we want to do this on the Inspire. Very similar. So we're just going to hit Document and clear the scratch pad. Go back to our graph, and let's start with our x times 50 minus x. And make sure we put some parentheses around this. Hit enter. Again, not going to appear, but we're going to go to our menu. We're going to go to our table. And we're going to look at what happens with our table. It's going to start at 0, 0, and notice it goes up. As I'm scrolling, I'm just going to hold down scroll, and then it's going to come back down again and hit 0 right around 50. So what that tells me, I'm going to go to my table and I'm going to remove it, is that if I want to make this appear on my calculator, I know my window settings are going to go from 0 to 50. My Y values, if you remember, did not get very large, but they started at 0 and went up to, let's just say 100. See if that's high. Oh, it wasn't high enough. So I'm going to go back to my window, and I believe it was around 600 or 700, so I'll just go with 700, and there we go. So now I have my graph to appear. I have 0 here, 50 here for my x, 0 to have 700 for my y, and now I have this graph that I can represent and use the tools. So again, you can use your trace key, you can use your analyze key to get your minimum, maximums, or zeros, or anything you need. Now, let's try the next one that's in the notes. Let's clear Sketchpad out. And let's try the x times, it was 4,000 minus 250x. Now the trick is, if you take this 4,000 divided by 250, you get 16. That's where the zeros are. So let's just go back to our table. So hit enter. And let's go to our table. And let's just look at what our table shows us. So our table shows us 0, 0. And as we're scrolling, it goes way up into the 16,000 range before it comes back down and hits 0 again at 16. Again, the reason it hits 0 at 16, we remove the table. The reason it hits 0 at 16 is 4,000 divided by 250 gives you the 16. It's a nice little trick when you have it in this factored form in order to get that to work. So we're going to set our window from 0 to 16. From 0, and remember these numbers got big. I mean 16,000, 17,000. I'm going to go up to 20,000, and there we go. And we have our graph, and again we can find our maxes, zeros, and trace to get whatever values we want. Hopefully this helps you use both of these calculators.